Okay, so in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to create a Bedrock client application using Python. And what we're going to do is just demo the client code that calls Bedrock to invoke an agent. Okay, so it's part of my Bedrock course. I'm just creating a demo. I could have done this a different way. I could have used my charm and created a Jupyter notebook and just executed something. But now I'm going to ask Claude to do this. So I'm going to see how good Claude does this job. Now, I'm not a Claude expert, but let's just see what goes on here. If you look at Claude, I got Claude running in my IDE, VS Code, and basically I created a new session for Claude, and I'm looking here, and this user interface and Claude Cowork has been changing kind of rapidly. I just want to make sure I have things set here and I could see what I expect to see here. Now, I could switch my model to something more expensive, more accurate. I'm going to leave it like that. I could manage plugins. I could open the Claude terminal. And I'm looking for these things, some of these slash commands. Okay, so and we might try to use one of these, but let's try starting with init. Let's see what this thing does. So my understanding is init's supposed to initialize my folder. So let's see what it does. And right now, there's no code base to analyze. Are you starting a new project, or do you have code elsewhere that should be in this directory? Okay, I'm going to just say starting a new project. Now, I just want to see what goes on here. And so it says, if you can point me to that. Okay, are you starting a new project? Do you have code elsewhere? Okay, blah, blah, blah. What kind of project are you building? I'm gonna say other. I'm gonna say AWS Bedrock client app using Python. Okay, I'm just gonna call this agents tool use. This seems correct. Now, what I could have done is I could have done a little planning. I could have said, I could have told it to create a Claude.md file. I could have described what this project is doing. But as much as I could describe it, I just want to see what options I have here. So let's just submit this and let's just see what happens. Okay, I'm going to use fast modern Parkland package manner log files, standard library tooling. Alright, I'm going to just pick the simplest thing here. HB server, other services calls. What interface will the app expose? I'm going to say other client calling Bedrock API. I don't know why they're asking me this, but I don't have any interfaces. This is going to be a client-driven code. Okay, so now it's using a different version of Python 3.12, but that's okay. Init, whatever. Let's just try it and see what happens. Now the funny thing is, yeah, I'm gonna ask it to do that because I'm gonna need a Boto 3 SDK to crawl my Bedrock. Now, it was interesting because okay, I went about this a different way, right? So I'm building the application. I should have built a skill to build the application, but that's okay. I just want to demo an application which calls Bedrock. So this is probably better than what I was going to do, but just keep in mind what we're doing here. Now, okay. So let me do this because allow this bash command. Make this directory. Nah, I don't care for that. I'm gonna say no. Let me try this. Okay, so create an .env directory for Claude. I'm gonna say Claude. Okay. Okay, so this is, it's creating a settings where the permissions are put there and stuff like that. Notice the settings here. Now, create a Claude environment file for variables. Now I don't know, see, this is, what I wanted to do is, okay, now I got an environment file. Okay, now, I don't really need these keys here because it's going to look at my credentials. Let's do this. Let me click here. What I want to do though is I want to put a couple of variables in here from my previous project. So I want my I want my profile there. So let's suppose I make this default. I'm using the West region. Let's say I'm not using Agent Core, and I'm not using Cognito, but I do want to use my home task master agent ARN. So let's see, this is in okay, I'm going to go back to my profile being production because my ARN is in production. And I don't think I need any of this because this is using Agent Core and I'm using security and stuff like that. And let's get rid of this. And I'm not using a website here right now. And all I'm doing is trying to generate a client. So let me go and save this real quick. Okay, now let's see what my main looks like. This is just hello. Okay, so now I'm going to go back here. I'm going to say create a skill. Called I'm going to call it create app Bedrock. See, a lot of times you don't know really what you want to do until you start doing it. Here I have a command. So I'm going to allow it to write. Now, I have an ARN here. Okay, and this is pointing to a master agent. So now I'm going to go back over here, and like I said, to me it's like, yeah, there's a right way to do this, but once you do it and you do figure out what you're doing, you want to rerun the skill to create it. So this is going to create a Bedrock app. So let's just see what this is. Scaffold a new Python application that calls Amazon Bedrock Agent API. Steps: create Bedrock client package. Create a Bedrock client. Reads AWS config, region profile, AWS default. Okay, so now I go back here and I say update my skill so that before app generation my home task variables are read and used in Python. Now, of course, this corresponds to me planning out what I'm going to do. So I could have created a plan, and we'll take a look at that other time. But I thought this was so simple that I didn't need to do that. What I want to do is read these variables, and then now I'm going to say something like this. This has been updated, so let's take a look at that. Home task match agent, ARN, and yeah, so now I'm going to go over here again and say use the, okay, I'm going to say update my skill to use the strands client framework. And of course I spelled client incorrectly, but it would probably do it correctly now. Okay, so let's see what else I want to do. I want to recreate the skill. I think what I have in my Bedrock client, the project, is not something I care about right now because I want this to happen. So it updated this. Anything else? Okay, although I'm creating the app, I do want to run the app. So let's just see what happens here. Now I've done all this here by accident. I wasn't really ready to do this yet, but I do want this virtual environment. I do want certain things. It might not change, but now let's do this. Okay, so now I'm going to say create application. What is it called? Create app Bedrock. See what happens. So now it's going to it's invoking my skill. The skill is the project command, so I'll execute it directly. It's reading the environment. It's reading my ARN. And installs, okay, install strands agents Bedrock. I'm going to say yes. It's going to create tools, it's going to create client, it's going to create main, and test client. It's going to create, now it's going to create the Claude.md file. So now, really what I'm trying to do is just run the application and just give it a test. But the truth of the matter is, I'm generating these files. I'm assuming they're correct. It's creating a Claude.md file. I should really look to see what that says and modify it if I have to. But I kind of want to make sure that at least my end result works. And of course, I mean, I could just look at what this is creating and say, hey, maybe this is okay for a simple app. But once this thing gets big, I want the software architecture to be may be different. So that's not my concern right now. My concern is demonstrating that I could call Bedrock with Python code, and I want to show you the client code to call. Now keep in mind, let's see, I'm going to go over here. This was a good video I was watching, but I want to come over here. Let's see, I'm in production. Let me try to get to production. And I do want to point out a couple things. First of all, I'm going to call Bedrock directly. I'm not going through Agent Core and Cognito and MCP. I'm just trying to call Bedrock. So I'm taking some shortcuts here, and I could take my Bedrock orchestration agent and expose it through Agent Core as an MCP endpoint using Cognito security. And I have another video to do that right after this video, because I already created it, but I wanted this to be simpler, and so let's take a look at what this has to offer here. So I want to show you just for a minute. Let's see what happened here. Wait for the background task. Allow the batch. I don't know what I'm waiting for, but make directory source Bedrock client user. I'll do it, but this is just a temporary folder. But I'm starting to realize some of the commands that I'm asking for are not jiving really with the directory structure I have here. But let's not worry about it. Now I don't have to keep approving this. I could just let it automatically do everything. Just allow it to run off the permissions. When you're in a directory, you're assuming that Claude is just modifying that folder. Don't always assume that safely. Sometimes it does do something different. So just keep that in mind. What I wanted to show you. Let's wait for this to finish. I'm just approving the edits one by one. And we should be done now. So now what I'm going to do is, let me get back to the console and show you what I'm trying to do. Okay, let's see what gets written today. So let me go back to the console. It's all done. So it created this thing. So some of this stuff, here, I'm not going to use that. It looks like it put everything under here that I'm using. So that was the problem with what I was describing. I shouldn't have gave it instruction to create an app. I should let the skill do whatever it needs to do. But anyway, I want to go back over here for a second. What I want to do is show you Bedrock, and let me explain to you what I'm doing. So in Bedrock, I have an orchestration client which calls subclients, an orchestration agent which calls subagents. And Bedrock allows you to develop that interactively with the console and test it with the console. So, so I have an agent, a home task agent, and there's an orchestration agent which looks at what you're asking about, whether it's an outdoor project, an indoor project, is it a home, is it a kitchen remodeling project? It'll ask, figure out intelligently what the user's trying to question, whether it's trying to get a price quote or find out the type of tiles for a kitchen, or how we could pay for driveway, what kind of material. Putting all that aside, what I have here is I built an agent-based system. And I did it in the West region, so let me go over there. Okay, so now what Bedrock does is it lets you define an agent that uses a large language model, and it could use RAG and different things. So you could tune a particular agent. I'm in the wrong account. Sorry about that. Yeah, it is interesting because there's different accounts, and I could go to and I create Bedrock apps in different accounts. So right now my Bedrock application is in production. So I am writing a Claude application to run in production. And the best way to and so the big thing I realize here is that I created a Bedrock multi-agent system without coding. And then I went to agent. Then I looked at Agent Core, and I started coding, and I started deploying things in Agent Core, which gives you security and observability and all the nice bells and whistles. Well, it turns out you could do both of them, right? So right now what I'm doing is I'm gonna go to okay. It turns out I don't know my account number, but it's going to, my Claude project should look at my credentials and look at my prod environment profile and get the account number. See, my profile is prod. I'm in the West region, and I don't know why this is showing up east. It must have looked at my default region. I don't really want it to look at the default region, so that's a little bit misleading. Now here's my production account number. So I'm going to go back here and put my number in, and I'm going to log in as admin. When I lose this account number, it's documented in my credential file, but sometimes it's just bad news if you lose that, because if you don't have it, if your disk crashes, you don't have it, you lose your account, because if you don't remember it, you don't have the email with the bill, the original invoice, it's just a horrible experience. So I just lost an account there. But let's move on. What I want to do is show you Bedrock, and I want to show you a little bit about what I'm doing here. Okay, so if I go down to agents, I have a bunch of agents. Here's a patio agent, here's a lawn agent. So with this patio agent, what I have is there's a role associated with what it can do. And I try to keep this role the same for all my sub-agents. It allows me to look at S3 buckets for RAG. It allows me to, whatever I need in this role, I could do it consistently. And I have versions of my my patio alias. Suppose I'm using 2, and I say list steps to pave a, I'm going to say asphalt driveway. And it gives me the instructions, then the steps. And all models return something different. And my system prompt could say, give me a high level limited to 200 characters or 300 characters, and it would do the right thing. So when you look at the agent, it's using a large language model. It's using an alias. It's using a version. When you edit an agent builder, basically you're using a large language model. So I could use a fast, cheaper model. I could use a smarter, larger model. So I could fine tune the model and make sure I get the proper answers geared towards some company like Home Depot. So this is the plan that I have, that all the agents are different and have control of their own expertise, etc. Now, if you look at the master itself has a large language model. If you go to edit it, it has a bunch of multi-agent collaboration. It has 12 agent collaborators. It collaborates with a kitchen remodeling agent. It collaborates with a paving agent, tree, roof, you name it. I could specialize an agent for home innovation. And they all have their own model. They all could be general. They could be focused on certain vendors, you name it. So this is an orchestration agent, this master agent, and basically what it does is it basically orchestrates. It passes on paving work to the paving agent, kitchen remodeling work to the kitchen remodeling agent. So it's a simple orchestration agent, and as you could see here, let me see. It should say here, it's a routing agent. So it's routing to the expert, and it's getting the response and making sure the response comes out right for the user. So this is what I'm doing, and when I look at the master agent, let's suppose I look for the, let me just save. I'm looking for the master agent here, and when I click on it, I have an ARN. So this is the ARN that I'm calling. Notice behind the scenes it's talking to 14 agents. It's doing whatever. Each agent could do whatever it wants to do, but all I need to do is call this one. I'm going to give it a prompt and say, give me the average pricing for driveways in 2026. So now, keep in mind that I got to give accurate answers. So there's a lot of different ways to tune this system. But right now we're just calling it. Okay, so that's what we're doing. This is Bedrock. And if you put this master agent in Agent Core, you could secure it with Cognito, and you could expose it as an MCP URL and blah blah blah, and you can get observability, and you could do a lot of different things. Not doing that. Okay, so let's go back to the code, and so I'm pointing to it here. Okay, so now let me go back to my application. And let me see what I have here. Claude source test. Source has the Bedrock client, and I have a Claude.md file here. Now these over here, I really don't want them because my application appears to be under here. Okay, so let's take a look at each of these things really quickly. First of all, okay, let me see. Let me just do this. Remove. I'm going to say remove main.py, now I'm going to remove this, but I'm going to make sure that, oh, it's not under here. Client main the tools. So I'm not going to remove that right now until I figure out. Let me see, this is main and this is main. So let me see what this is. Import build agent, current time. Let me see what this main says. This is a junk main, okay? So what I want to do really is, remove that main. What happened? Under okay, I don't want to remove this main. I want to remove this main. And notice if I click here and I click delete, I can't do it. So what I could do, I'm gonna see what happens here under Bedrock client folder. Yeah, and this is the one I want to remove. Okay, so I removed that. One thing I want to point out here is that in this settings, there's a permissions file. So if I go to Claude and I say update permissions for me to remove files in this project. And I did a typo there. I didn't even have time to read that. But let's see, it's updating settings, and it's allowing me to remove anything under this repo. Okay, so now my settings looks like this, and so now I can remove files. Now let's get back over here. I did create a skill which says create app. Let's look at a couple of files, okay? So the first thing I want to look at is this Claude MD file. This should tell me everything about the project. This file provides guidance to Claude Code when working with code in this repository. Okay, install UV, run test, lint, type, architecture, this is where our client is, setting these environmental variables, adding tools. Interesting, there's a way to add tools. Okay, so this file describes what this project is being used for. So let's just go in here real quick. This just basically talks about dependencies and what I need as far as the Python codes. Not too interested in that right now. Now here's my source directory, and here's the test directory. Let's see what this test client has. This should be reading this from an environmental file. So I guess I'm a little bit disturbed to see this. Let's go into the Bedrock client and take a look at the client. Yeah, so this reads the environmental variables. So it's getting the environmental variables. It's building the model ID, region. It's building the agent. Okay, then here's the main program. Build agent, print. Okay, so this is a loop that's gonna get your input and ask the agent questions. So let's see, in this tools, it's got some tools here, get current time and echo message. Now what I don't know yet is, and I'm going to ask, how do I run my app? And I pretty much am doing this because I want to determine whether I should put that in the skill or not. Okay, so it says this. Now it's telling me to make sure my credentials are in the environment. I don't know how I feel about that right now. So my credentials are not defined here, but they're in my my credential file on my Mac. So I'm going to go back over here. So let me ask the questions. You know, can't credentials file. I guess I'm trying to figure out what I want here. I don't want to put the credentials in the environment file. Okay, so now yeah, it wants to install this thing. So this will help me just read it from my credentials file. So I'm updating Python. I'm adding this package. I'm going to tell it to update all my files. See, for me, it's a little misleading for the credentials to be in the properties file. But you could use it. Now it's telling me it would load the credentials. So before I go on, what I like doing is just saying fix all files. Just want to see. Sometimes Claude likes seeing the command fix all files because it might find something that needs to be fixed, and I don't want to waste any time on things running. Now, I'm not used to working like this. I scaffold, I code, I do different things. But letting Claude do something like this, as long as it's small, it's fine. I mean, this client code should be pretty small, so, but the point is, I am building a skill to do this, not, I guess we should think about like what goes in GitHub, because I probably just need to Claude scale. And there is a lot of tedious things. As simple as this is, there's a lot of tedious stuff that I just don't want to code because you're going to be coding it a million times. So we understand. Now, keep in mind this works for sophisticated things. I created an AWS Connect instance the other day, and I just told Claude what to do, how to do it. Read these variables, write these variables, do whatever you want to do, and it winds up working. So, looks like it's trying to run the test. Now, I must say that running a Jupyter notebook, you could tell Claude to generate the Jupyter notebook. And writing the Jupyter notebook is the best way to go, because then you have all the snippets of code you need to run a certain thing, and you could clean up your code afterwards and stuff. So at this point here, my build application and my run application. Well, I'm just running. I'm not generating anything on the server side right now, so it's not important to clean up resources, but certainly someone taking a Bedrock class doesn't need to see this. They just need to see the code, right? So we're going to take a look at the code in a minute. Let's just try to run it. Now with the Jupyter Notebook, you do install, you do run. I mean, there's some pretty convenient things going on there. That's you could replicate this project on any desktop. Okay, I don't know what it fixed, but it fixed. Let's all 6 tests passed. Here's what was fixed. Okay, so now it did run the test. So did the test? What is this file? Okay, let's just skip that because I want to get through this demo here. So what I want to do is now run. Oh, okay, so yeah, let's run client and see what happens. It seems like it's running my scale. Now the thing about this is the observability is kind of weird. I'm not going to get into it right now, but there's some logging that's happening. If this is running an agent core, you can go and see the agent and look at the observability, the spans and the traces, and it shows you exactly what's going on in the conversation. So right now, the ultimate thing here is I got to convince myself that I'm actually calling that ARN that I want to call, but I'm not going to. I'm not too crazy about this init file, but let's just have it fix everything and just see what gives. Looks like it's talking to the Bedrock client and saying, hello, what can you help me with? Okay, the app also simplified correct move strands, which uses the Converse API's incompatibility with Bedrock agents. Interesting. Um, okay, let's see what happens if I run this. Directly. Okay, let's try this. Where's my? Let's go over here. Let me see. Is there a? Okay. I'm gonna say hello. Hello, I'm here to help you with any questions you have about home construction repair. If you have any questions or assistance, route your queries to specialized agents for home repair and remodeling. So I'm going to say list kitchen supplies. I might get an error with this, but let's just try it. Yeah, so it's true. Let me see if I could do this. Let's say list steps to pave a drive. Yeah, I think I'm let's say list steps to okay, so I got an answer now. Now keep in mind, it's not working exactly how it did work in Bedrock. And here, the only way to see that this is correct really is it's listing the steps. So it's giving me a good answer. Now the orchestration agent, the ARN I'm talking to, is supposed to delegate this to the paving agent. So the paving agent could do something more specific. And that might be happening here because this does look, I really can't tell. So it is true that, just to give you a heads up, it's true that Claude is using a large language model. Bedrock, my master agent, is using a large language model, and my sub agent is using a large language model, and they could be different. But keep in mind that when I'm in Bedrock, I could see the traces. I could see that my orchestration agent is passing my request to the paving agent. You could see that in the trace. It shows you who's responding to the call. So the routing agent, which is the orchestration agent, is routing to my paving agent. Basically, it has instructions to say route to my paving agent if someone asks a question about paving. So that's basically all I want to say. And the bottom line is that what this was really for. The reason why I created this, and I went a little overkill here by using Claude code and my Bedrock stuff, but really my only goal here was to, even though I produced the skill, my only goal here was to show the client code, how to invoke the agent. So this is invoking the Bedrock agent. It uses the Bedrock agent runtime. It uses my home task master agent. So it has certain attributes in the invoke agent call. That was really the goal of this, was to define this. Now, I'm going to end the video because this is the code that I should be writing to. These are functions that I'm being used to invoke the agent. And all I want to do is demo that you could write Python code to call a Bedrock agent as long as you have the agent ARN. Now, there's more to it than that, right? You got a role, you got roles on the server side, etc. And plus you got a main program here which goes through this loop, which we were going through. And notice I didn't have to really write any of this, but it's typically written the same way. You could use this to invoke any agent on Bedrock. Now, the important thing was that, let me see what happened, because I know I instructed it to use strands, and I don't think it, okay, it had these tools. I don't think I see any evidence of strands here, and I did get some sort of error, but let's see, photo. So I really don't. I forgot what my error was. I don't see any strand imports, but the SCK might have it in there. Well, I'm not going to. We could work on this all day, but the main point is one. Claude Code created a scale to create my application. I could run it. I did. I am running Python code here on my laptop that calls my agent in Bedrock, and that's really what I wanted to show. And of course, what I find is using Claude here, it locks down and secures things, but at the same time, it prompts me for safety to determine whether I should execute something, and it's got a mind of its own as to how it's going to do it. Right? It created this. So we're going to end this video now. I could. I'm going to run one more command, which I don't know if this is going to work because I haven't tried this, but this is something that's of interest to me. But we're going to end the video right after this. I just want to see if Claude could handle this. Okay. I'm going to say, please generate a notebook. I'm going to say, please generate a Juniper notebook. Juniper. I don't know how to spell it. It's a Juniper. That spelling is still wrong. Notebook containing all code that can be run to, I'm going to say, build app and test and run. Let's see what happens here. I think that's ER there, but yeah, so it's going to write one. So it's asking me a bunch of things, which, like I said, I don't need a notebook because I have a skill. I could just run this thing, but the notebook does allow you to build, test, and run, and clean up. You know, it is a more complete solution. Yeah, let's see how. Let's see if this works. Okay, this is really great. So it created the notebook for me. It has an install section, a load environment section, a client source section. It invokes the agent. It does the unit test. It does a single query, one live call to the agent. So it does the test and then the query. Multi-turn, 3-turn conversation with a session ID. So now where did it put it? It put it right here. So this is really really the way we should program. It also documented, which is nice. It loads the variables. It creates a section for code. And then it runs unit tests. So you could run each chunk of code one at a time, right? So if you're here, you could run this. And this installs dependencies. Anyway, that's all I wanted to show. I will be doing this from now on because the notebook is a really good way to go. Thanks for watching. See you soon.